20 seconds. That's how long it took for the hiker ahead of you to disappear. One moment, his flashlight was bouncing between the rhododendrons. The next it dropped like a stone, swallowed whole by the night. No scream, no struggle, and the next morning? Not a single track to be found. Just the echo of your own heartbeat bouncing off ridge after ridge of dark Appalachian pine. Stick around, because the 5 stories I'm about to share all end the same way. Someone steps into these hills and walks out changed or not at all. In northern Appalachia, folks still lower their voices when they pass the overgrown logging road that used to lead to Mother Tabitha's cabin. They call her the Bone Lady because she collected bones. Of deer, bear, and some say even men she found dead in the hollows. 1935 was the last time anyone dared knock on her warped door. A teenage boy went to trade moonshine for soremouth salve but came back 3 days later, barefoot, with no memory, and pupils so wide you could drop a quarter in and hear it clink against his skull. The sheriff rounded up a posse. When they broke down the door, the kettle was still boiling, but the only thing inside was a single vertebra wired to a note. Keep looking. That cabin was torched that night. Firefighters watched it crumble. Yet by dawn, the chimney stood cold to the touch, stacked with fresh bones no one claimed. Hikers today still find, ignore that rule and the forest ignores you. Your compass spins, your phone shows 0 bars, and every trail loops back to that same broken chimney. Search and rescue dogs refuse to cross that spot. They sit there, whining and staring into the tree-line, as if something's calling them home. Fast forward to 1952, in a coal town holler so small that the post office was just a drawer in the general store. 10-year-old Bara Crabtree started waking her parents every midnight with a sound like a hammer hitting mattress springs. They'd rush in to find her iron bed bouncing so hard that plaster rained down from the ceiling. Tools placed on the quilt would float an inch above the blanket, then slam back down the instant her mom prayed aloud. Word spread. A reporter from Knoxville drove up the creek and spent the night. He watched canned peaches levitate off the kitchen shelf at dinner, rotate slowly, and pour their syrup onto the floor in perfect spirals. A physics professor from the University of Kentucky brought magnetometers. The needle never budged, yet the bed kept bouncing. They finally nailed the legs into the floorboards, but come morning, the nails were bent outward, as if something had pried them free with invisible fingers. The phenomena stopped the day Bara's uncle burned a bundle of dried herbs he claimed to have found sewn inside her mattress ticking. Herbs that smelled like sulfur and old penny blood. Weeks later, her uncle fell from a cliff during a clear afternoon walk. The coroner ruled it a spontaneous skull fracture before he hit the ground. The mattress? It was buried in the town dump under 6 feet of gravel. Bulldozer operators still refuse to work after dusk. They hear metallic bed springs creaking under the soil. Deep inside West Virginia's Monongahela National Forest, there's a clearing shaped like a boot heel that locals call the Devil's Half-Acre. Nothing grows taller than briars, and snow melts off it 3 days before the rest of the ridge. In 1974, 3 college kids from Ohio wanted to disprove the myths. They hiked in with a Ouija board, camping gear, and a cassette recorder. Their final tape is out there on a file-sharing forum. I've listened so you don't have to. At 11:07 p.m., wind noise drowned out their laughter. At 11:11, one voice whispered, "He's here." A second later, the tent zipper ripped downward, and the tape screamed with what sounded like a deer being torn inside out. Search teams found the campsite untouched. Food in the cooler, wallets zipped inside packs. One sleeping bag shredded and re-zipped as if whoever gutted it knew how fabric worked. The only footprint belonged to a barefoot human, but the stride measured 7 feet from toe to heel. 2 of the boys reappeared a week later on separate highways, both dehydrated, tongues black, repeating the same phrase. We opened the door and it closed behind us. The 3rd student? He was never found. Every autumn, hunters report a single bare footprint in the frost of the half-acre, always pointing toward the nearest church, no matter which direction you approach from. For 2 centuries, glowing orbs have drifted above Brown Mountain in North Carolina. Cherokee oral history calls them the spirits of warriors searching for loved ones. Scientists blame swamp gas or ball lightning. Tourists blame aliens. Whatever they are, they've started hovering closer to the ground since 2010. Park rangers log an average of 42 missing person reports every year within a 7-mile radius. Compare that to the next nearest ranger district, 3. In 2018, a dad and his 8-year-old daughter camped near the Wilson Creek trailhead. At 2:13 a.m., he radioed in that orange lights were hovering above the tent. Dispatch told him to stay put. Units were 20 minutes out. When rescuers arrived, they found the tent zipped from the inside, sleeping bags still warm, Coco half drunk, and the girl's flashlight standing upright in the middle of the trail, casting a perfect beam uphill. Tracks ended abruptly at a rock face with no crevice wide enough for a rabbit, let alone a child. The dad reappeared 4 days later at a grocery store 40 miles away, still in the same clothes, pupils fully dilated, repeating only, "She walked into the light and I couldn't follow. The girl? She's still on the national missing list." Investigative journalists discovered that since 2010, at least one child disappears every June when the lights descend the lowest, roughly around the summer solstice. Now, rangers closed the backcountry campsites for that entire week. Locals hang lanterns outside their cabins, hoping that if the lights come looking, they'll hit glass and metal first. The 100-mile wilderness in Maine is the most remote stretch of the Appalachian Trail. Signs at both ends warn you that you're on your own out there. In 2019, a thru hiker named Jessie posted daily vlogs until mile 1925. Her final upload shows her smiling at a viewpoint. "Tomorrow I hit the scary part, but I've got peanut butter and confidence." She was never seen alive again. Dogs followed her scent to a spur trail barely wide enough for a deer, then just sat down and refused to move. Helicopters swept every ravine within a 5-mile radius. Nothing. 11 months later, a trail maintenance crew found her remains curled under a blowdown, not 200 yards from the corridor. Cause of death was listed as exposure, but seasoned searchers were baffled how she stayed hidden so close to a heavily traveled path. The medical examiner noted something stranger. Her femurs showed microscopic stress fractures consistent with running full tilt off a cliff, yet the ridge above the site is flat. Jessie's backpack was never recovered, but her phone was, battery still at 78%. No photos after the second day she went missing. In her comments section before she vanished, she'd replied to a viewer joking about Appalachian portals. Her last typed message? "If I find one, I'll send a postcard from the other side." Hikers now leave postcards under a cairn at the exact coordinates where her signal pinged. The stack grows taller every season. If you've got a story from the Appalachian woods that I didn't cover tonight, drop it in the comments. The best ones might just get their own video someday. While you're down there, hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode on the Mothman's lesser-known cousin, the Snallygaster. And hey, do me a favor. Next time the trail gets quiet and you feel like someone's watching, trust your gut and backtrack before whatever's watching decides to step forward. These mountains were ancient when the first humans set foot on them, and they've been collecting secrets ever since. Whether it's Mother Tabitha stacking bones, a bed that jumps without explanation, or lights that lure children into the sky, the Appalachian woods don't need your belief to keep their stories alive. They only need your footsteps. So print your map, charge your flashlight, and let someone know exactly where you're headed. Because once the sun dips behind those ridges, the only thing more terrifying than hearing a voice call your name is realizing it knows your middle name too. Stay safe out there, stay curious, and whatever you do, don't go into the Appalachian woods alone.